We're cantering into the last half hour of the program today. Before Tom Hughes going on down to the parade, which we're streaming live today on the program, and I have the joyful opportunity of talking about it. So I'll find that very difficult, I'm sure.
I think you will, Ron. It's a challenge, but I'm sure you're up for it.
It's Tom Hughes, a man after my own heart, a traveller of the world, and a man who takes the view that it's better. May I put words in your mouth?
Of course, Tev, have a go.
It's better to one day to live as a tiger than 1,000 days to live as a sheep.
We are only here once.
We're here once, and let's do it. No fear, let's do it. Forget Kilimanjaro had you, India's had you, all the things that are going on there. Talk to me about Kilimanjaro.
I decided to do Kilimanjaro last year. I go on an adventure every year.
Yes.
So the year before I'd done 2 weeks in Vietnam cycling. Did the equivalent of climbing Mount Everest on a bike, which was just a fantastic experience. A good friend of mine that I used to work with, he's my buddy on these things. So we decided to do Kilimanjaro last year. And I have a habit of getting into things without thinking about it too much. I think it's a great way to be, actually, because I think if you really put some thought into it, you probably wouldn't do it.
You're describing my going to India, because at the beginning when I went, I was called upon to go. Somebody said, look, I wasn't asked to go, but somebody said, the person who was to come can't come, and the little boy, he's going to be stuck in India forever. I said, I'll go.
Yeah.
Without thinking, you know, so I know the feeling there.
Life without thought, by the way, is a great way to be.
Yeah.
Like I say, I think when you look back on your life and you think about things that you've really struggled to do, often it's not the doing that was the problem. It was all the thinking around it that was the problem.
Yeah.
So Kilimanjaro is a good example of that, because physically it was a massive challenge.
Yeah. Is it that challenge? Kilimanjaro is a challenge, big challenge.
It's a huge challenge. Out of our 26 in our group, 6 were stretchered off the mountain.
Really?
And you're talking life-threatening stuff, people with pulmonary issues.
My goodness.
Perhaps
shouldn't have been on the mountain in the first place.
There was an elderly chap who was 70. And he didn't last. He was out on the 3rd day.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
But there's the physical challenge. It's more of an endurance and mental challenge.
Yeah.
Because you're not used to sleeping in a tent.
Yes.
Most of us. And so you're a temperature of like -20 nearly every night.
My goodness.
In a tent. You're cramped conditions. You're only getting 3 or 4 hours sleep. Lots of people getting no sleep.
Quite broken sleep as well.
Yeah, very much.
I certainly found under a mosquito net, sleeping in a bed, that was very broken sleep, because the mosquito net was protecting you from the creatures that would bring you malaria, but the oppressive condition of the air, stifling, and it's claustrophobic, and you dread the necessity maybe to go to the toilet in the middle of the night for a pee, because you're going to have to get the net up and make sure nothing is getting in under the net, and then getting it back down again. Did anything get in, you're asking?
Exactly. You know? Oh yeah, and that when you throw -20 into that equation as well, so you're going out.
And I remember this was India, when I'm under the net, and I waking out of sleep, and I look at the bottom panel of the net, and I think, Jesus, what's going on? The image of a cross on the curtain. Whoa! But I suddenly realized what it was. It was the moon was throwing the shadow of a cross on the bedside table onto the net. And I hadn't realized this. But that's what it was, because my hosts were Catholics, and they had these things there. So that was it. But the kind of things you saw on the way to the mountain and on the mountain itself.
Yeah, very, very humbling stuff. And I find that when you're going to these developing countries, we use that term.
It's a good term, actually.
How other people are living.
Yeah.
With nothing. And my invariable experience is you're left asking yourself, these are people that are having to walk a few miles to get water, carrying water tanks around on sticks over their shoulders.
You saw this?
Yeah. And our porters, we didn't carry all our gear going up the mountain. So we're allowed 30 kilograms of gear. Put that in perspective, it's about a third of my body weight.
Yeah.
And these guys are carrying that. And we find out we had a thank you ceremony at the end for all these guys. They're getting paid about $60 for a week's work of carrying that. Some of these guys have been up the mountain 500 times. They're doing it in flip-flops.
Yeah. But they'd be fit as ticks. They'd be so fit.
Fit as ticks, and always a big smile on their face.
Yeah.
And the thing, the same thing I would have said with Vietnam, and also the long time I spent in India. Those people are at a much different level of contentment to what we typically experience here. And I think we have a lot to learn from that.
Talk to me about your India.
India, I started going to India in the mid-90s. I had a job with a company where I was basically the man from Del Monte.
Actually, you look a bit like him. I do.
I need the hat. The hat had me there. But yeah, I visited about at least 50 companies in India.
Yes.
At the time I was working for...
Which part of India?
All over. Literally, when Indian people ask me, where have you been?
Yes.
I've pretty much been all over India. North, south, east, west. The only places I haven't been are the typical tourist places like Goa. I've been to industrial places. Kerala, I've been to Kerala. Yep. Beautiful.
Garden of India.
Yeah, and that's where Indians want to live.
Kerala is the Refriland Road of India.
It's got my favourite place actually, climate-wise, be Bangalore.
Bangalore, yeah.
Because it's very temperate. It doesn't get the 45 degrees in the summer type of temperatures. It's
I wasn't too bad in Tamil Nadu. It was very pleasant. Went to Chennai.
Been there, actually. Chennai a lot.
Yeah.
The company I work for, we had a factory in Chennai.
What time have you were? Because in Chennai, I found that in going, one of the great experiences was the night train to Coimbatore, going from Chennai right across. Now, the thing about it was, I dreaded the crowding on the train and the invasion of your privacy and the filth. There's a lot of filth on those trains.
In India.
I brought my own blanket with me for the journey and my own pillow.
Good idea.
And my own sheet. So when I got in, there were 4 bunks. One bunk bed up, down, bunk bed up, down. So 4 people, and no door on the sleeping carriage. It opened out onto the corridor of the train that people are just walking up and down on. And the windows, no glass, but bars on the windows. So I get in, bottom left, and I'm in there. And I get down, and I make a tent for myself. And I'm in the tent, and then these people are coming and starting to divest and climb up, and I'm... So I go further and further down.
Probably a few odor issues.
Quit. I then believe I will never sleep. But by the time we came to Coimbatore, I didn't want to wake, and I got so comfortable. Isn't it amazing how you adapt?
Yeah, I've done night trains as well.
Great fun.
It is. It's a real adventure.
Without a doubt. But I mean, adventure is important to us because you're talking very much about lifestyle issues, and you're talking almost as a crusade in your life. Certainly to do it for yourself. To give yourself
absolutely.
A passivity and contentment, born out of adventure.
Yeah. There's no conflict there at all.
And it's good to have this. But you're learning all the time in your many jobs.
And I'm happiest when I'm learning.
Yeah.
That's why I do so many different things, and I've done so many different things in my life.
Did I see you jumping out of an airplane somewhere now?
No, but that would be one of my bucket
No, you were on
lists.
top of a mountain on a bike, I thought.
I've done lots. Oh God, a few different times. Done a lot of mountains last year. Swiss Alps, Kilimanjaro, Ben Nevis. We did that as well. But it's always a paradox, and I think life's full of paradoxes. You want to be content with what you have. That's the first thing of all, content with what's here right now.
Yeah.
But
be at ease in the greyness of Newry. Is that what we're talking about?
Be at ease with what's already here. That's the thing. That was a fundamental understanding that changed everything for me. It's not that you're accepting poor situations. It's not that you're accepting that you can't change anything. But the first thing, accepting that it's already the way it is. Because so much of my energy would have been focused on fighting what already happened.
Yes, yes.
And that's such a wasteful process.
Yeah.
It's such a different thing when you understand it's here, accept that. Now we change.
Yeah,
We can
you're
change
the
things.
sailor coming into that ocean that's already there.
Yep.
Can't change the ocean.
No,
So you work with it.
you
It's
work
like
with
sailing.
it. Yeah,
You know,
flowing with it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And taking what comes for what it is.
Yeah.
And don't be disappointed with it.
No.
That would be another thing that I think we're all guilty of, or at least we certainly have all been guilty of. Being disappointed with what's happened and what's here right in front of you.
Are you talking?
Life can be just one big disappointment when it's like
Are
that.
you talking spirituality?
Yeah, yeah, very much. It would be my central passion over the last few, probably always has been, but I never realized it to the last few years.
Yeah, but you're not a religious man.
No, although
I'm talking about going into the club and signing up and blessing yourself in a certain way.
Although I would have no, I think if that helps you.
Oh,
great,
it helps if,
great
if it floats your boat, do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would have been very religious as a child. I was going to be a priest up until I was 14.
I was going to be a Christian brother.
Yeah, there you go. We have another thing in common. And then I rebelled all against that.
I did too.
Completely went the other direction.
Yeah.
And then I would say as a mature adult, my India trips were the reawakening of all of that. I used to get the guys, the first time it happened, they dragged me to a Hindu temple because it was a really special temple.
Yes.
And they wanted to go, because we were on somewhat of a road trip.
Yes.
We have to go here. And I was like, oh my God, do we really?
Oh, yeah.
So
Just
it was
stuff.
Hare Krishna's had built this brand new temple. It was 1.5 miles square.
Wow.
Huge thing. And because it was new, the guys wanted to see it. The guys I was working with. So we stopped there for an evening, and I was just blown away by it, honestly. It was the most peaceful place that I literally can ever remember being in as a space. And they had, coming from Northern Ireland with all how religion has been so divisive here for so long, it was a real shock to the system, because this massive, big 1.5 mile square temple had two paths. You had a believer's path for people who were Hindus and were wanting to do this, and a non-believer's path that ran beside it.
My goodness.
So the believer's path, they often stopped and meditated and chanted and prayed. And as a non-believer, you could watch them do that, but you weren't holding them up.
Yes.
You weren't held up by it.
Yeah.
And I was just, my life, how can this be so accepting of everything? And then, I'm not a Hindu, by the way, stress, I'm not any particular religious faith, but I find the beauty of it was the all-accepting nature and the non-judgmental nature of it, which was probably why I was turned off our conventional religion.
Well, you're not a Hindu, you have no conventional religion. Who is your God? What is your God? Is there a God that you look to?
There's certainly a higher power. Whatever you call it, it's just a name.
Yeah. Why certainly? Why do you use the word
certainly? Because when you learn to get in touch with yourself, you have no choice but to understand that. And there's good reason why a lot of religions avoid trying to put a label on that. I've come to understand, because the more you try to label it, the less you make of it. It's an understanding. This is something beautiful that I think you'll love. There's a priest, Richard Rohr, would be very at the forefront of present moment thinking in the Catholic Church today. Gaining a lot of traction in the Catholic Church and fully approved of by the latest Pope and everything.
Yes.
He was talking about a seminar he was on, and it was a multi-faith seminar and a bridge between religions and science. World-level science.
Yeah.
And there was a rabbi at that seminar who said, he was talking about the real meaning of commandments. And the thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain has a very different meaning to how we think of it. This guy had the audience in tears. And the real meaning of that is not that you're not allowed to swear. The real meaning of it is that you're not allowed to say the name of God as if you really know. You can't know. It's impossible.
no one knows.
No one knows. So
No,
anyone who puts themselves out there as knowing doesn't know. Do you understand? So
Yeah, anathema.
I found that
That is
absolutely
huge.
amazing.
That is huge. Because it's an insult to whatever deity exists to believe that you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mystery veil is there. You've
Yeah.
got to, the one thing you do, I think, is search.
Yeah.
The only requirement on you is to journey.
Yeah.
And in the journeying, you get a contentment and a knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, and I understand exactly
Very,
what you're
very
saying,
profound and beautiful, because there's where the paradox is again. I find this is full of paradoxes. So you are journeying, you are seeking to some level, but not striving.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
Striving
striving's
makes it
where
ugly.
the ugly. Exactly,
Yeah.
the word that was coming into my head.
Seeking is,
Yeah,
and
you haven't
striving
got
is.
it. You haven't got it.
Yeah, no, no.
So
I must do this.
Yeah.
I must because I want to get into
yeah,
heaven.
and, I want to be enlightened, or I want to
No, no, no,
I want to
you
reach
just-
some nirvanic
Yeah,
state.
yeah.
No, just accept what's
It's almost like if you observe the humble little daisy on the roadside on an edge of grass. The sun rises in the east, and the daisy is pointing to the east.
Yeah.
As the day moves, the daisy will follow the sun right round, and it'll be there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's a good analogy for the journey, because it happens almost by a process of strange spiritual osmosis, nice and gentle and easy.
You can
and
tell
grow.
that you observe things by the
Yeah.
way that you said that.
Really?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, because it's taking notice of
Yeah.
things like that really can bring you massive contentment.
Brother Benoit, one of the monks down in Rostrevor, I remember saying to Benoit, he was in the garden, he was picking flowers, and he would use the petals of the flowers to put on his candles. And I said, it's very interesting, I said to him, Benoit, isn't it wonderful for you to be here among the smells and the sounds and the colors under the sky of God? You're here with God in this beautiful place. Benoit looked at me, he said, Rohan, you always call me
Yeah,
Rohan.
right.
Rohan, why is it you believe that God is only to be found in beautiful places?
Yeah.
You know,
Wow. I've two things to bring you on that if we've time before you break.
oh, we have, we're okay. We have 10 minutes.
I had an experience like that. I was in Germany, and I was on a train, and the train was stopped at a really ugly city station, and I was just looking at a bunch of weeds at the side of the railway track. And that occurred to me, why would the weeds be any less content there than they would be on some cliff top looking over the sea?
I remember, yeah.
And that's the same thing, and a very unlikely source for this kind of inspiration, but I get it from everywhere. Keith Richards stepped on stage as a guest one time, and people are going, and here's Keith Richards, and Keith goes, it's great to be here, it's great to be anywhere. And that summed it up for me.
My bunch of weeds, my crop of weeds. This is an interesting one. When I went to Africa first, I felt quite happy. I was going to Africa. I was an adventure. I was quite immature, actually, even though it was only 10 years ago. But I was immature, and I used to think. I thought a lot of myself. Oh, this is a good thing to be doing. This is very important to be there. Again, the beauty and all the rest of it. And I went to the funeral of an old priest down in Termafecken, I think it was. And I remember standing close to the grave, very close to the grave, and I was standing about a metre, not more than a metre behind an old man who was looking towards the grave. I just saw the back of his head. I saw his old, Crombie, grey overcoat. And I'm just musing, an interesting old man, seen better days, blah, blah, blah. And I noticed his ear. He didn't have an ear. And the other ear was a little bit not right. At a particular moment, he turned to me and started talking to me. He had only half a face. The man was a victim of the worst cancer imaginable.
Oh, my life.
And he was talking to me at a metre distance, and I couldn't move. I had to talk to him. I couldn't walk away. And I engaged with him. And I'm suddenly realizing that through this quarry of a face, this brokenness of a face, this man was speaking to me and was sounding beautiful. And that registered with me to the moment a year ago that I saw another man in Dublin who was broken in the same way. And this time I knew, talk to the man. I said, how are you?
Yeah.
He said, why do you want to know? I'm just curious, you know, how are you? He says, I'm not good. He says, what do you think? I said, well, and he had one eye, the left eye. And I said, you have the most beautiful eye that I've ever seen. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, look at it. It's clear. It's magnificent. There's a happiness shining through. He said, do you really think that? And here began a relationship with that man. I met him every Saturday in life for the next year. Then one Saturday, he was no more. He had gone. He had died. So we find greatness of God in the weeds that we come across, and the brokenness we come across.
In the weeds of life. And like,
yeah, we
you
do.
know,
We do.
something that when you look at well, certainly when I look at my own life, and if you ever connect with someone deep enough to have a real conversation about where they've been.
Yeah.
I look back at the things that were difficult, and I wouldn't change a thing.
No.
The things you find some of the best things in the most difficult places, and I would certainly say that. And I think a lot of people can look back. The key is if you can look forward like that. If you can be now and go, it's not that much fun potentially, but I'm learning something here. I'm getting something out of it.
But you wouldn't change a thing, probably. But certainly, I wouldn't change a thing. Probably because I would be afraid to change a thing, maybe. Because what I came through, I knew, I understood, and I was able to deal with it, and I dealt with it. And I have a certain satisfaction in the parcel of my life that I met adversity, and I dealt with it, and overcame it. And that does, I suppose, start to build a bit of confidence into you.
It does. But it comes back to that first joking statement I made about being disappointed.
Yes, yes.
You know, I think that to me is, a lot of us are making less of our lives because we're disappointed about what's happened. We're disappointed about where we are.
What's going to happen again?
You know,
oh no, don't let it.
And I would be a massive believer in what you focus on expands. So if you're that, without question in my head, let's not get too woo-woo, but what you are constantly thinking about is more than likely what you're going to get more of. And so if you're disappointed to start with, you're probably going to get more disappointment. So a lot of that is coming from here. And a big realization for me is that once you start to realize that pretty much your whole life's created from here, then it makes you want to understand what's happening here and what you can do with it. And that to me is this is the big adventure that I'm on now.
Tom Hughes, it's one wonderful adventure.
Yeah.
And I thank you for coming in
Thanks
today.
for having me, Ronan. Absolute
Good to
pleasure.
see you.
It always is.
God bless you.
Cheers.
That's Tom Hughes. Go well. We're going to wish the people together farewell on this St. Patrick's Day.